What is happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Spurs podcast. In this episode, there's a lot to talk about. We'll be reviewing that Newcastle defeat, which is Thomas Frank's last game because he's been sacked by Tottenham Hotspur. We'll be also discussing potential interim managers or even permanent managers that could come in for Tottenham now and in the summer. Also, we'll be reacting to Ange Postecoglou, former Tottenham manager's appearance on the overlap, coming out with some big quotes and some interesting things for us to get our teeth into. And also Wilson Odobert, we did get the unfortunate news that he has suffered an ACL injury, so will be out for a long time just as he starts to hit form. So yeah, plenty to discuss. Stay tuned to the very end. Let's introduce my fantastic panel one by one. Gary, fantastic to have you back on. How have you been doing?
Yeah, good to be back. Thanks for having me. Been okay. Well, everything outside of Tottenham, I guess. It's just got very wet and very cold the other night, and the first half nearly broke me. But apart from that, yeah, I'm doing very well.
Good to hear. Spurs always a roller coaster ride, and plenty of news. And like I said to you off air, wouldn't surprise me if you've got more news while being on air. So we'll have to see. Gary, thank you.
You never know. You never know.
Exactly. You never know with Tottenham. Thank you very, very much. And Dustin, appreciate you coming on. You're on yesterday's emergency podcast called as a direct result of Thomas Frank being sacked. But thank you very much for coming on yesterday. How are you doing today? Doing well, Dustin?
Yeah, doing better today. I am not at home today. I'm overseas, in the equivalent of Tijuana. I'm across the border in Malaysia because it's the first time my daughter's been able to travel because she's at chronic stomach pain, and we found out that it's not going to be that bad, so we can take her to travel for the first time in like 4 or 5 months.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's really good. Thank you for sharing that, and I appreciate you coming on and giving us your time. Thank you. Appreciate it. Connor, welcome back onto the podcast. It's been a little while. I believe your first one of 2026, if I'm not mistaken. How have you been doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Doing pretty good, thank you. I should be able to hear me all right now. My Wi-Fi was just going crazy, but it should be okay now.
Absolutely. No, we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you very much for coming on. And Justin, great to have you on again. We've got a Dustin and Justin, so I'll try and be as clear as possible. But Justin, how you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm all good. Thanks for having me again. And just like Gary, yeah, the other night was a horrible, miserable night. But outside the Tottenham, life is good. But yeah, well, now life is good as well because Frank's gone as well. So yeah, let's just see how we go, innit?
Absolutely. Roller coaster times, and goodness knows what's to come, but we'll find out how it unfolds. Let's get into it then. We will start with the Newcastle review. It feels weird because we had that emergency podcast yesterday and we weren't discussing the recent game, even though it had been. We're discussing the Frank news. So it feels like going back in time. But to start with the Newcastle review, it's only fair we go back to the lineup and what was ultimately Thomas Frank's last lineup. We didn't know that, of course, at the time. And he went with Vicario in goal. Backline of Gray, Dragusin, Van der Ven and Spence, Basuma, Gallagher and Sarr in midfield, and Simmons, Odobert and Solanke up top. Gary, when this team was announced, what was your thinking? I was very surprised personally to see no Paulinho being a physical opponent in Newcastle, even without Joe Linton. Was that something that took you by surprise?
Yeah, in a way. I like Paulinho. I think he's a great player, to be honest. And in my opinion, if the opportunity arises, I'd be all over making him a permanent deal. Definitely, I do really highly rate him. My biggest issue really, again, is we've seen, 2 or 3 relatively decent performances with a back three. We saw that at the beginning of the season against PSG as well. And then we've gone back to a 4-2-3-1, which clearly wasn't working for us. So again, I just didn't quite understand the reasoning behind it from Thomas Frank. He could have started with Paulinho at centre-back with Bradley Dragusin and Mickey. So yeah, a little bit, I just didn't get that. And then once we understood it was a 4-2-3-1, again, we're unbalanced on the left-hand side. We've got players sitting on the bench that can play there in terms of out on the wing. So slightly disappointing, confused with why he's making these changes and kept ultimately making these changes. I just don't think he was quite set in the way that he wanted, and ultimately he did lose his job because of that.
He did ultimately, absolutely, and the lineup and that have a huge part to play. Gary, thank you. Connor, if I come to you again on the lineup, but no Matthias Tell once again, it's now got to the point where that's not a surprise. But listen, why is Frank, not being more attacking with the lineup in this game? Why is it we've not been dropped further back rather on that left-hand side? For example, in the 10, then Matistel can come in on that left-hand side. We should, for me, easily have 4 attacking players rather than 3. Newcastle typically a defensive outlook. The way that they set up for me tells me they wanted to sit back and counter and go with pace on the counter-attack. But we get into it, the game unfolded and we allowed Newcastle to come onto us. Ultimately, the game that nobody really expected. But the lineup is, I want to get your thoughts on that, but in particular, a bit about Tell not being in there once again.
Yes, I mean, first of all, the lineup, I look at the midfield and I think it's very negative. Obviously, you've got Basuma, Sarr, and Gallagher, and I just don't see how we're going to get forward. I was trying to work out with my mate. I mean, obviously, a lot of it comes down to, you're not spoiled for choice in personnel, and I do obviously have sympathy for Frank in that sense. But then when it comes down to Matisse Tell, I just don't know why he can't start. Obviously, like you say, if you do start him, then you've got more attacking options, which we do need. But there was a lot of mention after he got sacked that his main focus was on how to nullify opponents as opposed to actually how we can get forward and attack and actually do damage to opponents instead.
Absolutely, you're right to mention that. Thank you very much. Dustin, if I come to you, if we move to the action in the game, first moment of real significance was the disallowed goal from Joe Willock. I mean, fine margins in this one and VAR coming to our aid.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's one of those cases where um, I've had enough of VR in general, but I think that some once in a while VR does uh, does help us out in a way. But I think that the way that we set up, we kind of didn't do ourselves any favors. We just allowed ourselves to be dominated, specifically in the middle of the park, because we don't have Paulinho there. And I can understand a bit of why Bissouma was played, because he's one of the few midfielders that can actually receive and turn with the ball. But then if you have Xavi out on the left, you don't have anyone that he can turn with the ball, but he was often isolated there. And I think that resulted in a lot of turnovers in possession where, you can blame Bissouma for losing the ball, but if he is outnumbered by 3 midfielders from Newcastle, there's very little that he can do with that.
Okay, that's very true. Thank you very much. Interesting comment as well in the YouTube chat from Robbie saying Thomas Frank clearly didn't fancy Tell even with all our injuries. I think that is pretty clear. Justin, if I come to you now, we clearly didn't learn from that, ultimately disallowed goal in the end from Joe Willett, because we conceded, very shortly after in the end through Malik Chow, who scored in the 5th minute of stoppage time in the first half. I mean, literally couldn't be a worse time, could it, in terms of the first half to concede, right before we're going in at the break. But it's fair to say the goal's coming.
Yeah, and that's the problem. That's the problem. I feel like last time I was on here, we was talking about concentration. Just the simple things of when things aren't going well, at least concentrate. Make sure when the ball's in that box, you know who's on your guy. But it's the Tottenham way at the moment. When we need something to go right for us, it's gotta go wrong, and that's exactly what happened. It was the worst timing to happen. But yeah, it was coming. It's not like we was dominating the game and it was like a quick counter attack. It was just a pathetic first half, and to kill it off, to go like that, and for all the fans who went out there in the rain and just had to sit there and suffer for that first half. And you're thinking maybe they might come out in the second half and do something, but yeah, the first half was it was a shame, because that's the type of goal what we've seen too many times where players are just not paying attention, not marking their man, and doing simple clearances. But hopefully that changes soon.
Fingers crossed, hopefully. Anyways, up. Justin, thank you very much. Gary, usually when you
think
get
the
oh, go on, Dustin.
No, I think the other part that's really annoying is that like Vicario punches out, which is not bad in and of itself, but I think it's Gray and Sarr that are there, and they're just ball watching, and the Newcastle players the fastest to react to that, and as a defensive unit, it's just inconceivable to me that that we have 2 players in position to do something about it, but they're just not reacting and actually jostling the man rather than contesting for the ball.
Good point there. Couldn't agree more with that. Dustin, thank you. Gary, if I come to you, so often you see in football, and especially the Premier League, you get a VAR decision that goes, in your favour. In this case, it goes in Tottenham's favour. Often that lifts the crowd. Often it lifts the players on the pitch. For us, it didn't, though, did it? Going to concede straight after and kind of learning nothing. So for you, I mean, what are your thoughts on that response to disallowed goals? It's not one that is really acceptable, is it?
I don't think we really responded to anything during that game, especially in the first half. The first half was probably one of the worst first halves I've seen us play. We looked like an away side with zero confidence that was just handcuffed of any creativity. And Connor said, rightfully so, at the beginning, with a midfield three of Gallagher, Basuma and Sarr, where does the creativity come? Well, we had creativity in the 3-4-2-1 because we had two number 10s, albeit Odegaard was moving out to the right where he needed to, but a lot of times you would see him in the central areas with Xavi Simons. But then we decided to put our main creative threat out on the left-hand side. We just didn't react to anything because, again, just the lineup to me just didn't seem right. I just think the players are very shocked of any form of confidence. Perhaps they don't know what they needed to do. Newcastle were the complete opposite. They knew exactly what they need to do as a unit, as a team. They responded to any adversity. We don't respond well. These players do not respond well to adversity. Any time that there is any negativity or thrown at them, or if they concede early, they really struggle. And they have to go in at half time and then come out. And sometimes it seems like the handcuffs are taken off. And when the handcuffs are taken off, they seem to start to perform. But yeah, any form of adversity, a goal like that being chalked up, I mean, to me, was it just a tiny bit of his head that was onside? It's just,
yeah.
I just can't. To me, it's just not football. There's got to be. You're either off. Just bring the old offside rule back. It's so much bloody easier. But yeah, it's we just don't deal with adversity very well. Other clubs clearly do.
Agree with that. For me, it comes back to the whole mentality thing, which is addressed by Ange Postecoglou today when speaking to the overlap, which we'll get into. Gary, thank you. And even as a younger fan, I don't like the direction that the game is going in. And I'm not saying referees do a bad job, because if you see, for example, them mic'd up and you see kind of ref cam and things like that, you actually realise there's a lot more about referees' job than we think, and they actually do a lot better job than we think. But in terms of rules, for me, if it's not obvious with the human eye, for me that should be the decider. If you're going to have to examine, enlarge and do all this line stuff, for me that's just petty.
It's going towards the NFL. Like the NFL is start for a reason, obviously, because if the ball's dropped or whatever. But ultimately, the NFL, they review so much, and it does. And in our game, it takes away. Like I sometimes feel like I can't celebrate a goal because I just think there's something's going to be found. I can't remember what the game was the other day where it went out at the other end of the other end of the pitch, went all the way down the other end, and someone scored, and they brought it all the way. I think it's against Villa. I mean, that's not right. There's just like the little things about it. It's just the technology's gone completely the opposite way.
Yeah,
and to have a part of his head offside, it just beggars belief that we are reviewing it to the absolute letter. Again, I know we're going to go off topic here, but the Liverpool Man City goal.
Oh, exactly.
I mean, just
Where's
give
common
the goal.
sense. Common sense.
I get it because of goal difference. A team can lose I get it, but let's just get some excitement back in football. Ultimately, it was good for us because we didn't concede an extra goal, but we could have clearly conceded far more than we did. Vicario pulled off a couple of good saves, but yeah, we were just not at the races at all.
No, we certainly weren't. Gary, thank you. And I agree with everything you said there. Thank you very much. Connor, if I come to you on that first half then, what were your thoughts? It felt like, sometimes the way we were playing, you thought we're 2 or 3-0 up, just like just strolling in the park. We sit back and say to Newcastle, yeah, come on, try and break us down, which, without even the want to try. And in the end, they managed to do. And let's not forget, Newcastle didn't even start a striker. They still found a way in the end to score and to get in dangerous positions and look dangerous. But for you, in that first half, was a big concern as well how many corners they had, corner after corner after corner, knowing that we seem to do the silly zonal marking stuff and Newcastle tall physical players such as Dan Burn in the box.
Yeah, I still get nervous to this day when we concede a corner, just simply because of all the trouble we had with Vicario in Ange's second season. But he's not as bad when it comes to that stuff now. But no, I mean I wasn't too bothered by the corners. But again, it's just a case where constant turnovers in possession and they get chances and eventually they're going to punish you. But it was almost like especially when we would win the ball back, it was like watching a team that's never played together before. And it's like that every game. You know, they pick the ball up and they might string 3-4 passes together, and then they lose the ball again. I mean, a lot of that is going to come down to what's going on in the midfield, and it's not really a good balance. But I don't know. It's really frustrating to watch. But I've drifted away from your question a little bit.
No, it's all right. No, you've covered it. Thank you. Can I stick with you though, Connor? Because
Yeah.
the second half, there was a positive moment. Wasn't many, of course, generally across the whole 90, but one being the equaliser we got through Archie Gray in the 64th minute. Do you agree that this is one of the very few positives, that his performance also away from the goal, when he seemed absolutely delighted with himself to get the goal? And for me, I want to get your thoughts, but it's not only being in the right place in the right time, it's that he was the quickest to react and made it his.
Oh yeah, credit to Gray. First of all, credit to Sarr. I mean, he's like very composed just to header it back across goal. But no, he's good for him. Good for Gray, because he needs the confidence, especially in this side. He's still young. He's still got a lot of developing to do. But I do think that he'll be an important player for us over the next few years. So no, credit to him. But I mean, again, it just didn't really do anything, because we just went and conceded straight after, which I know you'll get to. But it's just so frustrating to watch, because yes, I mean we do well with set plays and throwing men into the box. We always seem to grab a goal that way, but why is that the only way we can score? And as well, how much of that is credit to Thomas Frank, and how much of it is actually just credit to his coaching staff? And you've got all these set piece coaches and free kick coaches and things like that. So I happily see the back of Frank, but I wouldn't mind keeping his set piece coaches if we can.
Absolutely. Even that, we were better at the start of the season with set pieces, but I do agree with you. Generally speaking, been a lot better, particularly with those long throws. But I'd argue that even when Dancer's played, of course, unfortunately now injured, that he started off, his throws are incredible, and then they just, for me, got progressively worse. Mind you, so did the team. So there's a bit of a trend going on there. But Connor, thank you very much. Justin, if I come to you, can I get your thoughts on this goal? But also, for you, did you think that, boom, we'd get this goal and that we'd really kick on now and, improve in terms of performance, maybe get a result from this game? We know what happens next, but were you surprised to see that we didn't kick on?
No, to be honest, and Connor dropped it perfectly at the beginning. When you see the lineup, and especially that midfield, you're thinking the only way we're going to get a goal is through some type of set piece, and that's what the worry was. But congrats to Gray, 'cause I swear he scored a goal like that before, where he was basically on the line and headed it in. So at least we know his reactions are on point. But yeah, I just didn't feel like that was going to be the pushing point where we was going to start fully going and unlocking the players, because I know Frank's just got in Gallagher, so he has to play him. But I just feel like what does he bring? What I haven't already seen are other midfielders who are just box to box midfielders. So I'm just now all hoping on Xabi's going to have to do something from that left hand side, and you got no chance, and that's where the shame is, because you've got the goal. We're at home. All the pressure's on us. We have to get a win. You'd think this is the time that all the players have got to step up and be like, yeah, this is our moment. And then, yeah, obviously you'll go into the goal after. But yeah, it's just embarrassing. It's got to that point where there's no fight. And then if I'm worried about a relegation battle and I'm seeing how the players are playing, yeah, it's a scary moment, to be honest.
Not good at all. And when I talk about not the response we're looking for, Newcastle scoring in less than 4 minutes after Tottenham's equalised, that's never what you expect to happen, particularly being at home. Even though we're all awful at home, when you're at home, you get your home fans. Usually in football, you often see a team kick on, certainly not go and concede straight after. But Dustin, I come to you on that Newcastle goal, which was the winning goal in the end, third goal of the match, second for the Toon, 68th minute through Jacob Ramsey. We've discussed it before. I'm going to discuss it again. and I don't want to pick him out necessarily because I thought he was good against Manchester United, but it is Vicario and the positioning. I mean, he couldn't be any closer to the goalposts. I mean, what's he doing? Is he, out of play? Is he a spectator? I mean, this is a goalkeeper we're talking about, not defender standing on the line. He's got to, I mean, I'm not a goalkeeper and I'll be useless in goal, but I know that you've got to, be better with your positioning. And for me, I'm not asking again Vicario to necessarily, to catch it, to save it or whatever, but, sometimes for me, he's got to get a lot closer than he does. And the positioning is what costs a goalkeeper. And I'd go as far as saying that his position is shocking. And this being a prime example.
Yeah, I think that Vicario has dropped a few rucks, especially this isn't the first goal that he's conceded through bad positioning. I think there was a goal, was it against City as well, where he was very near to his near post and that he conceded on the far post. I think that part of the reason that Vicario is having a lot of these problems is that he is now put under pressure in terms of his kicking. He's had the reputation of not being good at set pieces. So defenders or, centre backs that come into the box are normally trying to muscle him off the ball whenever there's a set piece going in. He's also pulled off some saves that have kept us in a lot of games. So I think what's happened is that when a goalkeeper is put under that kind of pressure, particularly if they already have to save a lot of shots, it's an emotional or it's a psychological load that is on their psyche, and they're more likely to overcompensate and make mistakes and have these kinds of lapses in judgment. So if Vicario wasn't kept as busy for us conceding lots of chances and shots on target for him, I think that he has less opportunity to make those mistakes. But I think part of it is because of the way that we are more reactive and we don't seek to possess the ball. We don't seek to have more possession and let the other team try to win the ball from us. The fact that we try to be the counter-attacking team, the fact that we try to win the ball from the opposing team and we give them possession so that we can hope to win it from them, because we are better at creating chances when the other team is not settled in the defensive shape. That's why we give them possession and try to win the ball back. That results in us giving up possession. The other team has a lot more possession to create attacks against us, and then Vicario is put under more pressure, more shots on target, and as a result, is more likely to make mistakes like this.
Okay, interesting. There you go, adding some vital context there. As always, Dustin, thank you very much. Gary, Vicario is always very quick to have a go at his defenders, sometimes within reason, and sometimes you think, hang on a minute, look in the mirror. Is this one of those look in the mirror moments with his positioning? I mean, am I being harsh that I'm picking this out? For me, I just thought it was atrocious.
Positioning, but equally what he loves to do, and which we see from a lot of goalkeepers nowadays, is they push the ball away rather than they don't push it around a corner. They seem to push it back in. Some people have said it's because of the balls. I don't know why that is. Just catch the ball. It wasn't even a difficult shot. There wasn't a huge amount of power behind it. I don't think. I've watched it back again. I don't necessarily think it's. I think it's routine for a top six goalkeeper, and I think that's the reality of where we are. We don't have one that is as comfortable and can get us out of difficult situations. He does at times, but he doesn't do it regularly. Donnarumma saves that all day long. David Reyes saves that all day long. Edison saves that all day long. Is it Edison? Liverpool, however you pronounce his name. They all do.
Yeah.
And that's another part. I think a lot of these goalkeepers now, I see it a lot in the MLS because I watch a lot of the MLS, that they parry it away and they try to push it away, but actually just catch the ball. Difficult, odd situation. God knows how bad Kinski must be in training if he's not even getting an opportunity or even a sniff. Even at some of the cup games, he just doesn't get a look. So that's slightly interesting. But yeah, I don't think you're being harsh on him. To be honest, equally, and this is the caveat of that. If I misplace a pass in a game as a striker, it doesn't really matter. If he makes a mistake, almost certainly going to be a goal. So he's in a really difficult position as well. So that's trying to make an excuse for him, but he just doesn't help himself.
No, he doesn't. Ultimately, you're absolutely right. Justin, I'll come to you. Conor Gallagher losing possession. So I get Vicario's frustration, but he shouted at the back line as far as it looked anyway, rather than Conor Gallagher. And yeah, of course, Gallagher's new signings, we're excited, of course, by him, generally speaking. We want to get behind him, which is absolutely the right thing to do. But I think we can't ignore that, this is a really cheap way to give up possession when we were looking forward in a good position. So yeah, I'm sure, I want to hear your thoughts on it, but I'm sure you're as frustrated as we all are about the way that it was conceded and the fact that we were nearly away on the attack.
Yeah, and that's one of our downfalls a lot of the time because our players are trying to move forward and the quality just isn't there. Like many times when we're just on the break to hit a counter attack, we just do a simple pass, and that's what kills me the most. I'm fine with you messing up a crazy through ball, what really only a certain type of player might able to hit. But when it's easy and just concentration, that's where it always comes down to. And again, I'm not a fan of Connor. Cool, you just joined my team, minutes. I'm gonna support you, but for the quality wise of what he's gonna bring, I don't rate him. I've never rated him. I never understood why we'd get him. So when I see what he's done, part of me is like, well, that's your quality. So should I really be angry at you? But again, obviously, for concentration wise, it's the easiest pass. I don't even know how he. But I get it. You're tired. Adrenaline's going. You're nervous as well because you're thinking, who am I really trying to? I just don't know. But yeah, as soon as he lost the ball, I think the whole crowd knew. We just all knew this is about to bite us, and yeah, it bites us hard, man. It's a shame. It's a shame.
Hugely
I
frustrating.
I think the other part about it is that when we signed Conor Gallagher and a number of people were excited about the signing, but I always maintained that I was not happy that we were signing another box to box player that was more of a carrier, because if we had progressive passes, the whole point of central progressive passing is if you pass the ball and the pass is blocked, you're still in the position to be a defensive participant. But if you're always carrying and you lose the ball, most likely after you've lost the ball, you're out of the equation. You've got to run back, and part of it was Conor Gallagher running back, and not blocking the shot because he's already run up the field, lost the ball, and run back, and he's gassed. So going for the profile of another carrier when we already have 4 box-to-box carriers just didn't make sense to me when the profile we clearly needed was a progressive passer.
Okay. Thank you very much. Before we get our full-time thoughts, let's listen to Thomas Frank and what was his final interview, by the way, an interesting one with TNT Sports, one that he wasn't a fan of the interviewer, let's just say. Let's hear what he had to say for those that missed it.
Heard the boos and the chants against you, chanting that you'd be sacked in the morning. Like, what can you tell the Spurs fans that gives you confidence, to give them confidence that you are the man to dig them out of this position?
I think I understand the frustration. I also understand it's the easiest thing is to point at me. That's fair. That's part of the job. Unfortunately, I also know one thing: I'll work day and night very hard to do everything I can to turn it around. But also, it's never only one person. I also think it's fair to say that this situation we've been in also last year. So there's something we need to get through and improve, and I'm not in doubt that I'm part of that.
Obviously, there's 12 days now until the next game, the North London derby. Have you spoken at all to the hierarchy at the club? Are you confident that you'll be in your position? Have you any worries about your job at Spurs?
No, I spoke to them yesterday, so no.
And results, performances like tonight, the reaction from the supporters, do you think that will have any bearing on them changing their opinion between now and the Arsenal game?
No.
So if you could give one message, I suppose, to the Spurs supporters who would like somebody different in your position come Arsenal, what would it be?
But that's a fair question. I'll just say what I do is I'll work very hard. I'll make sure we do everything we can to put a competitive team out there that's ready to fight.
Here we go then. Thomas Frank speaking to TNT Sports. Crikey. Gary, you nodded, you're shaking your head there, understandably. Give us your thoughts on that.
It's an unfair question. It's not less. It's such an unfair question of him. I'm not the biggest fan. He's clearly He's clearly under pressure. That's an unfair question to give to somebody after a performance or any time. What do you say to people that don't want you in a job? Well, I'd like to know what I would. I'd like them to know what I would say because he handled it really well. There's a meme going around of him staring afterwards, but it's just an unfair question. It isn't fair on him. No matter how poor we've been, when we were poor, he gave his Thomas Frank spiel that he gives out and this positivity, and he believed he was going to be the manager. That's fine, but I thought it was a little bit harsh. It was a bit harsh, to be honest. I think it's unnecessary.
Brutal. And some strange questions as well, and that's the thing. I mean, what are you going to say, really? I get, in a way...
They're just looking for clickbait. They're looking for something for him to do, because he did
they wanted to bite. They wanted to bite, I think.
Yeah, he did. And he shook the guy's hand and then stared him out. And that's what everybody sees online. So he gave him it, but he tried not to. I mean, you just had Thomas Frank has basically just stared you out, which in a way makes you laugh, because he just reminds me of a PE teacher, really, that you want to smack. But I just thought it was a harsh question. Justin's sweating himself down there.
He is, yeah.
They basically tried to do the same the previous week with Romero and continuously bringing it up during the interviews.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? Throw him on the bus?
8 times. He's asked 8 questions.
No, apparently there was 30 questions, and 19 of them were about, because I had a journalist on one of my shows the other day. He was in it, and he said there was 30 questions asked, and 19 of them were about Romero.
Wow. That's incredible.
What can you can only give the same answer, and what they're trying to do is just trying to find that clickbait moment, and that's just what journalists mostly are about. And that guy was doing it there. I just think it was very harsh on him, really. Even harsher that he's just stood there, said, "Oh yes, I'm going to have a job," and then walks probably from that interview to be told he's been sacked. That's the harsh reality of what probably happened.
Absolutely, and harsh. And I look at that and go, I feel sorry for him. And then you see, of course, the amount that he gets, going to get paid as a result of being sacked. I think, not as much, but still.
I'm not going to feel sorry for someone that's on £8 million a year, that's not even done a year. What was he, a 5-year contract, something like that? 4 years, I think. Yeah. I mean, he's going to get a nice penny. So I'm not like sitting here going, "Oh my God, I feel really sorry for you," because you're going to have more money than will ever earn in my life. So, okay. But he doesn't deserve some of the stuff. He doesn't deserve that. I thought that was just a bit too far.
Gary, thank you very much. Dustin, I always enjoy your analysis. You got anything to add on to what you just heard there from Thomas Frank? What did you think of the whole interview?
I think that journalists are just trying to bait something out of him. I mean, what are you supposed to respond to? People don't like you. They really don't like you. They really want you out. What are you supposed to say to that? It's kind of indicative of the kind of gutter journalism that we have, right? Where it's all about going for clicks. And whenever we criticize like managers for the way they handle interviews, I think we've also got to bear in mind that this is one of the hardest parts of the job, which is you're contractually obligated to answer all of these questions because they're sponsors, they're broadcasters and everything. And a lot of the time, when these journalists have a question to ask, they want to be the one that, I asked the question that got this guy to lose his temper. I'm sure the guy that got Conte to lose his temper is dining out on that story, right? So I think that it's unfortunate that that's kind of the currency and that's what is desirable for journalists now, but that is the way it goes because it's the attention economy.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you very much. And before I come to you all to get your thoughts, just briefly on the sacking of Thomas Frank, as you go, the dust is kind of settled. Let's hear now from a Newcastle fan and YouTuber, from Jay from Hawaii the Mags. Let's hear what he had to say.
I felt if you had most of your injured players back, you could have seen a better side. So I think it is a little bit harsh from a Newcastle fan's point of view, but it is what it is. I kind of get the feeling that whoever lost that game was going to lose their jobs because Eddie Howe was under a lot of pressure as well. Jacob Ramsey finally getting himself a goal. You could see the emotion on him. He was absolutely relieved to grab that goal and relieved to finally have a good game for us. As us fans, to say that Elanga has been poor, Ramsey's been poor, Vissa's been poor. The only decent signing we made was Malik Chow. But in the past couple of games, we've started to see a glimpse of what Elanga can do. And now we've finally seen what Jacob Ramsey can do. So I'm really happy with the result. We didn't actually play a striker, which is concerning, even though we named like 3-4 strikers on the bench. I thought Spurs did okay. They managed to get themselves back into the game. I suffered another poor injury with Odebert being out for the season now of an ACL. I do wish him a speedy recovery. But overall, I'm really happy with the game. Man of the match for me would have to go for Joe Willock. I thought Joe Willock played in a really good game. If it wasn't just by just a smidgen of his hair, he would have opened up the scoring earlier on. But I think Joe Willock had a really good game. I know the man of the match was given to Jacob Ramsey, but I'm really happy with I was really happy with Joe Willock's performance as well. Decent performance. Concerning over the wing backs, we are being Trippier and Dan Burn. We know Dan Burn isn't a left back, but overall, I'm still very happy with the result. It was a really good game. Onwards and upwards, we got Villa in the FA Cup on Sunday. So come on, you mighty Mags. Let's try and improve our away form even further. But that's my post match. Unlucky Spurs. Hope you can really start pushing up the league and find a manager that you're going to give time to.
Thank you to Jay from Hawaii the Mags TV for sending his thoughts, giving his thoughts as well, also on Tottenham managerial situation at the end. Connor, what were your thoughts on Jay's assessment? It's interesting, isn't it, always to get an outside perspective or an opposition perspective, which we did in this case. Do you agree with his assessment on the game as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that. I think it's pretty humble to sort of say, thinking about it, if we did have our players that were all injured back, then maybe we would have put up a bit more of a fight. But no, I think it was a fairly reasonable post-match perspective. So yeah, I mean, I probably would have given it to Joe Willock as well, in honesty. I thought he played really well, and typical that it's ex-Gooner that does get man up against her. And I also think it's a little bit of a touch of Dr. Tottenham again, which is obviously not in the sense that they got a result against us, because I think Newcastle are a half-decent side anyway, but more so Jacob Ramsey being terrible, and then all of a sudden he plays Spurs and he'll probably pick up form now.
Yeah, it's always the way, isn't it? Absolutely typical. Before we move on to Thomas Frank, then let's hear from the second and final Newcastle fan, Toon Tactics TV, who decided to not talk about the game too much, but Tottenham's managerial situation. He was keen to get into it. Let's hear what he had to say.
Harry Scarfe TV, as always, and this is your man, Philip from Toon Tactics TV. Now, I've got 2 recommendations for your managers. Obviously, first of all, the caveat of the first thing that needs to change is your board. Because I feel like no matter who the manager is at this moment in time, it doesn't matter. It could be Guardiola. Your board, who are in charge of the vision for your club, are ruining your club. And I think you guys already know that. But in the short term, and the long term, you need someone to keep you up and be probably a second manager to get you the long-term vision. But there is one manager who can probably do both things, and that's Sebastian Hohner from VfB Stuttgart. Now, he took that team from relegation to Champions League. He's got a Hansi Flick style of football, He's very, very impressive. They score a lot of goals. His own coaching career is really, really good. He's 43 years old. He took the first ever German reserve team to promotion to the third round of their respective leagues. So he's got a really, really good career, and I think he might be one of the next managers to really burst through. And look, he's got a good style of football, defensive and attacking, and he strikes a good balance. And it seems that a lot of players really thrive under him. We bought Voltemada from Stuttgart as well, and he thrived under Sebastian Horner. So if there's any recommendations I would have, it would be that guy. So do look him up and let your audience know about him. As always, folks, take care and God bless.
Thank you to Toon Tactics TV there, offering his insight there, Ken. Proper involved. He asked me if he could. I was like, yeah, go for it. Why not? So we'll get into what he said in just a little bit as we move on to managerial placements. But I want to go around the panel and get the thoughts now on Thomas Frank. Of course, you get news that comes out in terms of what it was like in Frank dressing room, that kind of thing. So I want to know if any opinions have changed. Gary, if I can start with you, what are your thoughts on Frank being sacked? How do you feel? How do you summarise your thinking right now? Do you agree with the decision?
Yeah, absolutely. It should have come after West Ham. West Ham was the end for me. There was a number of people said they thought that the Chelsea or Arsenal games were for them. And I can understand that, but I think that Chelsea and Arsenal, especially in Arsenal's case, they are quite significantly further away from what we are at the moment. Chelsea at the time weren't too sure on them. So I kind of gave him some excuses there, and I was trying to think of the positivities at the start of the season. I thought we were great in the Super Cup. I thought there was potential that we should have won that. We could have won it. Obviously, we started on two league wins in a row. So I was trying to hold on to those aspects and the injuries. But West Ham for me was the end. It should have come then. Unfortunately, it just seemed that there was two individuals that didn't want to make that change for whatever reason that is, be it loyalty or trying to keep some stability or long-term project. But in any form of business, it's okay. And in life, actually, it's okay for all of us to sit here and make a mistake. Mistakes happen. It's addressing them and understanding that, okay, I've made a mistake here. I need to fix this. And that comes with managerial appointments. That's even going into a job. You could go into a job, and I always say this to people as well. Most jobs you go in and you're on like a probation, right? You have maybe like 6-month probation, and you're on probation with them. They're on probation with you. They are as well, because this is your livelihood. If this is not working, you should move on. And I think that was really where we were at. It just wasn't working, and it needed to be changed. I think we held on for far too long. If we were holding on, it should have been done during January, because at the moment now we're the 12th of February. What manager is going to want to come in on a permanent basis, be it whoever these names are being pulled out, De Zerbi and Robbie Keane and all those? Why do they want to come, take a full-time, a permanent position, knowing there is no incomings at this football club? Nobody. I don't see any huge, big-time manager that can do that will. But going back to the original question, yes, I think it was the right decision. It should have been done after West Ham. If they were holding it on, it should have certainly been done either at the beginning of January or during it. And I think I might have said this on this channel. I definitely would have said it on Last Word on Spurs or Diehards and my own, that the reason for me that we didn't sign anybody in January is because I thought Thomas Frank was getting sacked. Why would they not? If they had a long-term vision in him over the rest of that season, why didn't they go and address those glaring problems? Because at one point we had 11 fit first-team players, and I echo Justin on Conor Gallagher. I was really happy happy with Conor Gallagher as a signing. He's not the answer. He's not going to go and create and score what we need. We needed something alongside him. And I just felt the lack of signings coming in was a big, big red flag that I didn't think Thomas Frank was going to be here for the rest of the season, certainly not in the summer. So, yes, it was definitely the right decision to make. He's a nice guy, nothing against him. Just don't think this is the right environment for him, and I'm sure he'll do very well wherever he goes.
Gary, thank you very much. Appreciate that. You covered a lot and very well put as well. Thank you very much. Justin, if I come to you, give us your thoughts on the sacking of Thomas Frank. Did you expect it? Did you see it coming in terms of, I think we all probably expected this day to come, like matter of time, let's just say. But the fact it's like hasn't happened up until now, myself, if be honest with you, was thinking I think it'll be here to the end of the end of the year now until the summer. They're just going to hold out. That's what it felt like. But the club choosing to pull the trigger, and also to something to add on to that, does it also make sense considering when they made the sacking, 12 days before the next game? That's the longest period, I believe, for an awfully long time.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Thomas tanked the season, yeah. And again, most of us thought after West Ham, that's going to be the end of it. I'm going along with what Gary's saying in terms of we wasn't signing players. So I'm thinking, what's happening here? Tenga got brought in, and that made me think, okay, you're not part of Frank's coaching staff, so maybe you've been brought in for interim. But to leave it this late, you had so much time, you could have got it done and at least got in a couple players. So I'm just thinking, what was they really? Was it just for the Champions League, just to make sure we got, so we didn't have to deal with the qualifiers? I have no idea. I just didn't understand why they took so long. But I'm just happy. I've been waiting for this guy to go. He was just killing our club. It was just killing it. Like I've seen a depressed. Because I work at Tottenham and I work pitch side. So I've seen under Conte, fans were sleeping. Ange, fans were like having heart attacks. This guy, I've never seen fans so angry. Like I've not actually seen that, where fans are just not just online, but actually at the stadium angry. So it just got to the point where it was just horrible, and it really needed to be done, but they just took way too long. And now I'm just worried about who can even come in. I keep hearing about Poch for later on, so it could be Sherwood and all sorts. And I can't do this yesteryear type of, we had them before, let's bring them back. Redknapp's an old man. Like it worries me. It does worry me because, okay, cool. Our board, like the owners aren't as bad as, let's say, Man U's owner, not coming out and saying dumbness, but our board don't want to push for success football wise because they're so successful in the business side of it. You're going to lose money when you focus on the football side of it because you have to put money in. And I just feel like these lot don't want to do that. They just want to put in the minimum as they can and hopefully somehow make magic. And the worst thing is I feel like Poch was a curse because he made something out of nothing, what brought belief that we could do something. And it's like they forgot that we had Harry Kane's and whatnot around the team. So it's like, did they try that with Frank? Did they think, okay, cool, Frank can able to do this. We don't need to give him that much because he made players like Tony and Watkins and people like that. So maybe he can transform the club. But yeah, it took too long. Dreadful appointment. And if they said it was 30 odd people they went through to sign this guy, I'm just worried about who they really are going to bring in. No matter who we want or who we might think they bring in, I'm just worried about who they actually bring in.
Justin, thank you very much. Covered a good, a lot of stuff there in terms of potential permanent appointment in the summer, your thoughts on Frank, etc. Thank you very much. And it is a, interesting time for the club, and a lot of pressure to get this decision right because otherwise, we're flirting with the risk of relegation, and it's hugely concerning when you're watching Burnley's results, when you're watching West Ham's results. That's got to be a concern. I'm watching Burnley get their first win for ages yesterday, and I'm thinking, what if they get 2 or 3 wins together? And it shouldn't be the case. We should be worrying, we just beaten by Man United. Realistically, that's what you want to be aiming, but it just looks it's not going to happen really at this point at all. And we're now thinking, if we go on a run, can we even get top half? And this conversation shouldn't happen, to be had.
We're in a season or a part of the season where we were celebrating Manchester United getting a draw against West Ham and Wolves picking up a point against Forest. In the last 2 days, we've been happy that that's happened. That's the reality of where we are at the moment. It's scary.
Sad.
It's really scary.
And that, Man United goal at the end, Sesko. I mean, that felt huge amongst our Spurs fans. That it felt like a massive, weight off our shoulders. And again, it shouldn't be the case. We should be worried about Man United, not West Ham. And in reality, so that is a real shame. Gary, thank you for adding that on. I do appreciate it. Connor, if I come to you, give us your thoughts. Then you've been quiet and listened to what we've all had to say. Where you stand at this moment in time now. Frank has gone. Do you agree with this decision, and talk to us about anyone you'd like to see come in on an interim or permanent basis?
Yeah, I agree with it. Again, I think I'm pretty much the same. Once it got to about the West Ham game, that's where my turning point was really with him. I was very defensive. I would defend him even to friends who, like, I've got friends who hated him for a long time. Even had one friend say he should be sacked after the Arsenal game, like was mentioned earlier. But again, still, I said, no, you've got to stick with him. Same way I defended Ange, because I think that you've got to give these people time. You've got to try and let them build. Obviously, I wonder whether some of that's where Vinay is trying to keep him the same way he kept Mikel Arteta when he was going through a bad run as well. So, yeah, those are my thoughts earlier on. But then it just got to a point where the football's not getting any better. It's just so negative. It doesn't ever look like there's a game plan. Maybe there was one, but it never really looks like it. And we just, I don't know, we just get rolled over by anyone that we play fancies themselves to get a result against us, and you can't have that. You can't have that mentality. So yeah, I just got fed up with it in the end, and I do agree with the sacking of Frank. But as for a permanent appointment, I honestly do believe it's going to be an interim, and then it'll just be Poch after the World Cup. That's what I see happening. Of course, it's now come out that De Zerbi, we won't be getting De Zerbi. I've seen that we're interested in the manager from Porto. One manager that I always wanted, and I know that we was linked with him and did try and negotiate with him a few years ago. I don't know whether you guys are going to guess. Julian Nagelsmann. That's who I wanted years ago, and I thought he was going to end up with him, but we never ended up with getting him. That's a manager that if we didn't get Poch, if we somehow could pull that off, that's a manager I'd be pretty happy with.
Okay, Connor, thank you. Before I move on, though, from you mentioned there about Pochettino permanently in the summer, and that is, I think quite popular amongst the Spurs fans. But do you think Jesus Perez, any chance he comes in and, an interim basis or a member of his coaching staff till the end of the year, and then Poch comes back after his commitment in the World Cup with the US? Any chance of that?
I think that'd be pretty fun. Give us something to be excited about. But no, I don't think that'll happen. I just think it'll be Heitinga until the end of the season, and then we'll end up getting Poch. If there is some other plan, then I think I'm all ears. I'd like to hear it, but I just really do think that this board have no real idea of what they want to do. So I do think it will end up being Pochettino. And I mean, it's a coincidence this has happened just after an interview comes out about Poch still confessing his love for Spurs and how he does want to one day come back. So there was that. And then another thing, I was talking to my mate the other day, and we mentioned how Eric Lamella's assistant coach at Sevilla. So that would be quite fun. I could see someone like that maybe coming in one day, not now, but to be a part of maybe, if we did get Pochettino, to maybe be a part of his coaching staff. And then maybe Ben Davies once he retires, which by the looks of things will probably be very soon. And then if we can get rid of these board members, maybe we can get Jan Vertonghen as the director, as he's the director. Can't think who for, but I know that he is a director now.
Yeah, he is, absolutely. Connor, thank you very much. And listen, for me, I'll be open to most people right now because I want to get somebody in and give them time with the players. Ultimately, going into next week, huge game to start with, North London derby, and then Fulham, Craven Cottage, our record there as well. Not good. There's a huge game, but for me, I've seen some people suggest it. I think most is a joke, but some like Ryan Mason, right, top guy, but I just wouldn't want not being funny. Ultimately, left West Brom 18th position, 10 away defeats in a row, pretty football, but couldn't get results, and we just can't take that risk right now. So I hope that's
the only caveat there for Ryan is that West Brom are quite in bad financial positions. They wasn't able to spend any money.
Yes,
and they sacked him in January, and they actually haven't won a game since he left either. So and there's a lot of people that have caveat saying that they didn't think it was Ryan's fault either. For me, for what it's worth, I think they want Pochettino because, one, they can see the outpour and cry from the fan base, and they can see the massive disconnects and the protesting that's planned, and massively the decrease in attendances. They need to do something to get the general fans, or as much of the fan base as they can, back on side. And I think they will look to go for Maurizio. I found it very interesting timing when that High Performance podcast came out. He expressed his love for the club. He didn't really talk about many other clubs. I mean, he talks about PSG and Chelsea, but he glowed when he talks about Tottenham. So clearly there's that love and passion there. But there was one player outside of Harry Kane that he really praised, and that was Ryan Mason. And he talked about Ryan Mason as, he understood what him and Jesus wanted. He understands the football. He understands all these different things. And in my head, I'm thinking, well, if we can't get him out of the USA contract, which I don't think would happen, and he probably wouldn't want to split his time, or the US probably wouldn't allow it, and Ryan Mason is available, is it the case that Ryan comes in on a temporary basis? He knows the club, he knows the fans, etc. But at the same time, the announcement is made that Maurizio was coming back in the summer, and him and Maurizio is from afar. That's a possibility. I think the more reality is it probably will be John Heitinger, and then they'll address some situations in the summer. But just for whatever weight it might carry, in my opinion, it should be Maurizio. And I get that there is a section of the fan base that maybe don't want to go back. And I'll say this, that there isn't a manager on the planet that loves this football club that's active more than him. He will go into any interview, and there is loads out there, and he did one last week, that if he has the opportunity to talk about Tottenham, he does, and he says how much he loves that club. He also, as I say, speaks so glowingly, but he goes out of his way to talk about them. And there is not a manager on the planet that is about to go into a World Cup that is sitting there talking about Tottenham Hotspur. Now, in my opinion, I want somebody that loves that club as much as me, and that's what it feels like. And I'm fully behind him, and I think he has equally enough credit in the bank with a lot of the fan base. I know it's not everybody. There's enough credit there that if he came and sat down now, and for instance, he was appointed and said, lads and ladies, this is going to take me a little while to sort this all out. When he first came in at Tottenham, he had a number of senior players that needed to moved on, and there were some real good youngsters. Equally, we now have a number of senior players that need to move on, and a lot of good youngsters. I need to grow them. We understand his playing style. I've spent 38 games, I think 30 odd games now under Thomas Frank. I couldn't tell you his football style. I can tell you Maurizio's. So we understand the style. We understand how he likes to play. We understand him, what he is as a person. He's worked with the ownership as well, and he can unite a huge section of the fan base almost immediately. To me, that's a manager and somebody I want at my club. I want people here like us five that love the football club. Justin down there works there. Pretty sure I've seen Justin walk past me loads of time, swaying, proper like cool dude walking past me, making sure I'm protected. Should a Manchester United fan be sat next to me like he was at the Man United game? Those type of things. We want these people at our football club that love football, that love Tottenham. Maurizio's one of them. I know it sounds cynical or wanting to go back, but we're in a mess and we need somebody to unite us, and I think he does that.
Yeah, Gary, I appreciate you mentioning that. Again, I personally feel pretty much the same with you. I know a load of people do as well. And, they say don't go back in football, but I don't necessarily agree with that. Again, it depends on the situation, but why not? Why wouldn't you go back to some of the weaker times?
He's a different person. If he hasn't grown in the 7 years that he's been here, we'll find that out quickly. And the club has grown, but we've grown off the field and we've regressed on the field since he left us. We're all different people. There's different players. There's one player left from when he was there, and he's going to be retired at the end of the season. It's a completely new squad. Ultimately, yes, it's ENIC 2.0, but there's new people to go to, new people to answer to. Nick Boucher, it seems to be the new new man making the decisions. And Maurizio has a good relationship with the Lewis family, so he's already got that. For me, it's got. I can't understand anybody else that it could be. Justin, don't turn on me here. Don't give me a hill turn.
No.
Come on.
No, my only problem, like, I've got no problem with going back for Poch. My only problem is, will the ownership fully back it? That's my only thing. I don't doubt what Poch can do, because even where it was falling off, we all knew we just needed a revamp. That's all it was. We just needed a revamp. That didn't happen. We need the revamp. Will that happen? And I just hate for all managers to come back and have it go and be a nightmare. It's just, I just wouldn't want that for Poch.
No,
Like, that's
I
all
get
it
that. But if you look at it, there is a lot of new players, and they're young as well. We could go through it now. Kinski, it's unproven but very young. Archie Gray, Vuskovic, Mickey van der Ven, Bergval, Saar, Tell, Odeber, Xavi Simmons is 22, Luca Williams-Barnett, Janai Byfield, Callum Olasisi.
Youth team as well, yeah. It's don't get me wrong, it's all set there for a magical dream. It's just with Tottenham, that's my only one. I think it's just the PTSD of how the club have treated it, from sacking Martin Yo at half time to just, I just don't trust them. And it's like, if you're going to ruin anything, just don't ruin its magic. Like, just, of all people, let's not do it. But
equally, and this is the caveat to it, that his name is always going to be brought up. Every time we've sacked a manager, his name's been brought up. And do you know what? Sometimes they might have to do it and then go, look, we did it because you asked us. We were right and you were wrong. And as a fan base, we might need to go, actually, we were wrong. This is just a time period that we really want to get back to. I mean, I think that if it's like that itch, if you don't scratch that itch, it's always
definitely.
Whenever there's a tear
as well. Yeah. Because anytime a new manager comes and it starts going wrong, you're going to hear its magic in the crowd. So, yeah, no, it's true. It's one of them things we both need to just get done. And then, obviously, fingers crossed, it just goes in the right direction this time. Or the worst thing is it went in the right direction. It just...
This is the biggest issue, that we're in a relegation situation now, so it's not ideal. I'm convinced they're going to try and get him now, or they're going to do something to try and allow that now. But we're in a difficult situation. But for me, if we can find somebody that can come in on the interim, that might be Heitinga, whoever, that just, football is a really, really simple game when you break it down. And it is really, a lot of it is about confidence. If someone could come in and instill some confidence into the players, and as I said earlier, unlock the handcuffs they've been on and just say, lads, go and play. Just go and play your football. This is the formation, as you know, Dustin will be able to do all those formation stuff. This is the style of play. This is the setup. But just go and play. Express yourselves. Remember why you started. There's some good players in there that will get us through. But we just need to uncuff them, let them go play, be disciplined, and we'll be all right in terms of that relegation fight.
You know what? USA have only got friendlies.
Yeah.
Just to say, they've got, let's say by the time our season ends, they'd have played 3 friendlies.
The caveat of that is the MLS starts next weekend. So the MLS season starts next Saturday. So it might be that he needs to be around and watch players.
Oh yeah, to watch the players, of course. But then can't your staff do that?
There's a potential. Yeah, it might be that he may have commitments. I guess is the right word.
Oh yeah, of course, maybe everything you're the host nation.
Yeah, I know Gus Hiddink. I don't know if some of the older people watching this might remember Gus Hiddink. He was at Chelsea. I can't remember what Asian nation he was doing at the time, but he did. He shared Korea, I think it might have been. Yeah, he shared a role going into the 2002 World Cup, I think it was. So it's possible.
It's not like he wasn't able to manage them through the actual World Cup. It's just the beginning of it. And as I was saying, they've literally just got friendlies left. So it wouldn't be.
I don't think he leaves now. I think if he comes now, he'll be in a joint venture.
That's what I'd expect, because to throw away that opportunity anyway, it'd be, you know, you want the job And if the club's smart this time, you just give it to him, like really, just to get that itch off the back, to please the fans at least, because that would have been the one you got rid of Levy, you bring in Poch, it's like you're pleasing the fans a bit. But then now Vinay needs to go. I'm not gonna lie, throughout that Newcastle game, I sat there on my stool, soaked. And
Be
all I
careful
was
what you
doing,
say, Justin. Be careful for
I
what
know,
you
I'm
say.
just
Don't lose
saying,
yourself over it.
I'm just looking up. I'm just looking up at the box, and I'm just thinking, what are you lot watching to make you feel like this is something what's really gonna keep the fans happy? Because I'm seeing empty seats from season ticket, like who I see every game, and they're not even at the match. And I'm thinking, like, what is happening here? Like, how can you continue to watch this and think it's okay? Because where's his video? He was flinging videos at the beginning of the season. Where are these videos now? Breaking down why you lot just sacked Frank. Like, I need to see how he breaks this down.
My last sort of situation on it is that this is the most important appointment probably in my lifetime, and it's been 35 years as a supporter. I've never seen us this. I've seen us down at the bottom, but I've never seen or felt this worried and this disconnected, and the disconnect between the fan base, the ownership, and the playing staff as well. I've never experienced it to this degree. I think this is one of the most important appointments we've ever had, especially in my life, and the ownership desperately needs it, because they have to get us on board. If they are as committed as they seem to keep saying, and they don't want to sell, and they don't make the right appointments, and we continue to go down this road and path we're on, it's only going to get worse for them. And equally bad for them is the valuation will continue to drop. They won't want that.
If it drops anything below 2 billion, they're upset.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Nice conversation there. Connor, I know you've got to jump. Thank you very much for coming on. Tell people where they can follow you on social media before we move on. Don't forget, if you unmute yourself, we want to hear your socials. Oh,
I'm still stuck on it. Thank you for having me on again. Appreciate it. Always enjoy coming on. Yes, you can find me Things Hotspur on Twitter. Although I don't really tweet as much as I used to. Mainly just use it for news at the moment. But yeah, if you really want to give me a follow, I am on there.
You've got to promote yourself. Good stuff, Connor. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. All right.
You too. Take care, guys.
Thank you. Lovely. Thank you very much. Good to talk to you as always. Thank you for your time. Dustin, give me your thoughts on Thomas Frank and what you've heard here, the conversation, managerial replacements, a lot for you to get your teeth into. And then we're going to move on to Ange Postecoglou's interview with the Overlap.
So with Frank, I was done with him probably at the Fulham game. And what I was doing after that was just looking game to game to see whether did he have any other attacking patterns of play other than ping it to Porro and Kudus and have them cross it to Richarlison. And in the few times that there was central ball progression, it always felt like those players taking the game into their own hands and doing it, and it wasn't a pattern. It was Xavi and Gray doing interplay down the center. It was always a player that was doing it that wasn't, it didn't seem to be part of the plan. When it did become part of the plan, I saw it twice, which is the Frankfurt game and then the game against City. But that was after both Porro and Kudus were injured. So that was when you no longer have Richarlison was injured as well. So your crosses and the target for the crosses were all injured. And then he's like, okay, I have to play in a different way. And then that's when he had, 2 number 10s, 3 at the back. So it just seems to me that his preferred way of creating chances is all about crossing. And we saw against Newcastle, you just cross it to Dan Burn to hit away. And I was just waiting, looking for some central ball progression. And I think that's why we never signed anyone of that profile during the window. I just think that it just wasn't a priority. So for me, it's more of looking at the way that he chooses to create chances and going that there's nothing there to hang your hat on if he's going to play such an agricultural style of football. It's not even just about the spectacle. It's just that if you compact the box and have someone in there that can hit those balls away, you're not going to create much chances out of it. So that's why I quite early on was done with him, but I didn't really want to make it a campaign. I just wanted to give him the opportunity to see if there was any other kinds of pattern of play that he would come up with, but he just didn't. And also now we can see from his departures. After Ange's departure, we saw every single player come out with like an entire essay about like, thank you, coach, for what you did for us. Obviously, after winning a title. But as of now, you've seen three? You've seen Porro. I think you've seen Porro and Richarlison maybe, and it's all like very short. It's very much, an acquaintance has left the company and I'm going to be polite. Like, it just doesn't seem like he had the players on board. And I think it's quite telling as well. I think we'll move on to that later, but there was a repost of parts of Ange's interview where Jan Vertonghen likes that as well. So you can see that there is an indication on Instagram from which players like something or which players respond to something, where you can actually tell whether that's something that happens in the dressing room that they agree with.
Okay, Dustin, thank you very much. Just want to very briefly give my thoughts, because I believe that I stuck my neck on the line to defend Thomas Frank. I don't regret much of it, because for me, the way I view it is Frank was not the main problem, but just because you're not the main problem, the problem's upstairs, doesn't mean that you're not part of the problem, if that makes sense. That's the way that I view it. And the reality is, although I think he was given a bad hand massively in January, if you idolize Arsenal every week, you play for draws, and you disrespect me a little bit the club in terms of what we achieved last year, disrespect the fans a little bit, and you're a poor communicator, it's not going to go very well. And, I gave Frank, I think, a lot of time based on the fact that I think he's done a good job at Brentford. And I think we need to back someone, thoroughly at Tottenham. It doesn't mean necessarily you back the wrong horse. So, people are very mad in terms of some things they've been saying about Frank. And, listen, this is not something I have just for Thomas Frank. I believe at Tottenham that we should be giving managers time. But when you're flirting with relegation, you just can't take the risk. But I just thought I'd add that in. But let's move on then to Ange Postecoglou with the overlap. So how are we going to do this then? I've got 3 clips, right? It's quite a few you can pick out, so I've got 3, and we're going to discuss it one by one. The first one is from Ange, that talks about how we signed Solanke, signed 3 teenagers. It's an interesting listen, so let's hear what he had to say when speaking to the guys on the overlap.
Everywhere is to dare is to do. It's everywhere, and yet their actions are almost the antithesis of that. Right. It's a real curious in terms of understanding what are they trying to build. What are they? Is it? There's obviously they've built an unbelievable stadium, unbelievable training facilities. But when you look at the expenditure, particularly in their wages structure, they're not a big club. I saw that because when we were trying to sign players, we weren't in the market for those players.
Not a big club in terms of the wages that they pay, because the money, the sort of the transfer fees, not the biggest in the league.
They're always there or thereabouts.
But there's a cap, is there, on wages that won't be broken?
There's certain players that at the end of my first year when we finished 5th, for me, okay, how do you go from 5th to really challenging? Well, we had to sign Premier League ready players. But finishing 5th that year didn't get us Champions League. We didn't have the money. So we ended up signing Dom Solanke, who was I was really keen on him. I really like him. And 3 teenagers. I was looking at Pedro Neto and Buemo and Semenyo at the time, Mark Gahey, because I said, if we're going to go from 5th to there, that's what the other big clubs would do in that moment. And those 3 teenagers are outstanding young players. Brilliant young, and I think they'll be great players for Tottenham, but they're not going to get you from 5th to 4th and 3rd. But what was coming out from the club was that, no, we're a club that can compete on all fronts. When you walk into Tottenham, what you see everywhere is to dare.
Okay, it does go around there. But Gary, if I start with you, what were your thoughts on that? I mean, it's crystal clear, isn't it, that what he's saying, and the other managers have said it, how we just don't act like a top 6 club, and he's interested there in terms of the players he wants to sign, and we go out there and sign 3 teenagers. I think he said it in a respectful way while making his thoughts clear. Is that pretty damning to you?
Yes and no, because it's nothing that we as fans haven't said for years anyway. It's quite obvious from the outside. Maurizio said it years ago that we needed to invest more in our and rebuilds. And we're always, I mean, we seem to celebrate as the managers in periods seem to celebrate the intent to go for a player. Thomas Frank did it with Semenyo. It was like we were meant to say, "Oh, thanks so much for intending or trying to sign somebody," and they want that as like a medal. And I think was a little bit, what's the word? Bitter in some of the things he said. I think he was quite bitter in the way that he'd been left, and I would be too. He came in and was basically put down in his first meeting with Daniel Levy, saying, "Oh, we've gone for all these win now managers now, and we've brought you in because we thought we'd do something different." Hang on a minute, mate. I've won the double in Scotland a couple of times. I've won everywhere I've been. So that was immediately, it was sort of disrespected. And if I say to you, Harry, is whatever you do as a job, this is what you need to do. This is what you need. This is your task, and you achieve that. And then I go, Harry, that's not good enough. What? But I've done it. No, but that's not good enough. You needed to go and do all these other things as well. So that was where I think some area of bitterness comes. But Ange didn't say anything that us as fans and all these hundreds and thousands of people will watch it that we didn't really already know. If you think about it, it's just it's a shame. It's a shame that is what our football club is about, because he is right. We have a today is to do attitude, but our today is to do attitude is based on commercial income and not on footballing success.
Gary, thank you very much. Let's play the next clip then, which I'll give to another one of you. And this is about photos on the wall and all about telling the players about how they needed to win a trophy. So let's have a listen to this one.
World-class players, they've made finals, semi-finals, and yet, okay, how? And it was, look, to be honest, the reason I was convinced we'd win was because that's what I sold to the players. I said to them, I think I've said the story where outside the Tottenham dressing room at the home ground, there's all the photos, but it's only of the teams that have won things. And I walked them through that, and I just said, have a look at those walls. What do you notice? I said, most of them are in black and white, because that's how long ago. And I go, who's not on these walls? I said, Harry's not on these walls. I said, Sonny, and Sonny, I go, Sonny, you're not on these walls. Only one way we get on these walls, boys. So that was a big driving force for me, that I kind of used it as, that's why I was convinced get to the final that we would win, because I think when it got tough, and it was going to get tough, I think we had more to win than Man U on the night. I said, Man U, they've always got something to lean on, a crutch of success. This was a chance for this group of players, and that's the story I sold them. Well, mate, you guys got a chance to elevate yourself above all the other players that have come in the last sort of 40 years.
There we go. Justin, what do you make of this? I like that he's trying to install belief. I think it's concerning that he has to do that and the players can't do it themselves. But nonetheless, I like the way that he approached this. What do you think?
Yeah, no, this was my problem about getting rid of a manager who's just won a cup. So if you're going to get rid of a manager who's just won a cup, you bring in a manager who's won a lot of cups. That's how I looked at it. You don't then bring in a manager who hasn't won anything. So from the first interview, Thomas Frank saying, I don't know, we'll lose games. And then you've got this guy here who's won everything wherever he's been, and he's always focused on winning. So he's drilling that into their head. So that for me was one of my biggest problems from the beginning. It's that mentality shift, and Andrew's already, as that like Gary was saying as well, he already had his back against the wall when Levy's telling him, yeah, like we went for win now managers, and now we've got Ange, and it's like, yo mate, I've been winning everywhere. Like what do you mean? So that for me, that was already a problem. And when you can tell a player, I've been in this situation before. Like I've been in cup competitions, and we've won these cup competitions, and you lot can be the next set of people who can win this. You can do something what none of these great players have ever achieved who have been here before. You're not going to hear that from Frank, and that's where I always felt that problem was. So of course we already knew how Ange speaks. He's already motivating the players. I swear he even done something at the final where he was showing like the players' parents and family and saying like you
Yes.
need to be doing this for them as well. You know what I'm saying? Like already, like I think there was like the little pre-season tour where he was telling the players about just how they should be conducting themselves on the pitch. It's the little things like that what we lacked. So yeah, no, it's but again, like what can he really say in there? What's going to be wrong? What we don't already know how this club moves. Like it's a shame that it has to be like this, and then whatever happens after this, it's like, will it change? Will the board look at this and be like, okay, this how many managers are going to keep saying this is the way of Tottenham, that nothing's going to change until upstairs changes, and that's where the problem really lies.
Definitely. Justin, thank you very much for addressing that. We've got the final Ange clip here then on the whole Spursy tag. And Dustin, I'll give this to you once we hear from Ange Postecoglou.
Almost the board out. Is there a mentality and almost like a feeling, I look from the outside, that no one actually believes Tottenham can win or go and win a big game?
Yeah.
Or not so much a big game,
a
big trophy.
It is. Look, Spursy. It's Spursy. I mean, that's what it was all
Is that
about.
a thing? You're inside the building. There's players, when they're coming in. Is there almost a lack of belief that you can go and do something?
100% there is. Yeah, absolutely. And that was the thing I was trying to break. And, you know, my whole statement about winning things in the second year was I was doing that for the club because no one internally would dare say that because they were just scared. They've been close a few times and, oh no, if we get there, even I remember the day of the Europa final and by that stage, the players were brilliant, you know, and I knew we'd win that day. You know, I was just convinced that the path we'd taken and everyone in the sort of hotel was really calm. And I remember it was one of the few times actually Daniel came in and we had a coffee in the morning and he said, everyone's really relaxed. Even he was, and the only thing he said to me, which was bizarre as a motivational point, he said something like, oh, you know what, I've been in 7 finals and semi-finals and we haven't won one.
That's a good thing. Oh, go on.
That's good, but I know why he said that, because of that. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying, Jamie, right? So you've got that, and that does exist, absolutely.
There we go then, Ange Postecoglou sums Daniel Levy up to a T. I mean, that guy, I mean, if you just want evidence that he didn't understand football, some of his comments, I mean, even on the documentary, which is made to make him and the likes of Mourinho as well look really good, it just were baffling. He didn't have a clue. I can't remember who it was. It was one of the players that are injured, and it's just the way he confronted them. Like, oh, yeah, yes, you'll be back, will you? And just for me, Levy, no clue when it comes to football. But Dustin, give us your thoughts there on what Ange Postecoglou had to say. I mean, he didn't hold back on mentioning the Spursy tag.
Yeah, I think it's really crucial that we understand the role of the coach. I mean, the coach can set up tactics, he can do lots of things. But I think that, you know, there are coaches that try to control everything, right? And I think that to a certain extent, that's kind of what Frank was. Because you would see him give, you know, like an entire essay to Van der Ven, and Van der Ven's trying to read this while he's playing in the middle of a top flight game. And you'd see that sometimes he gives players such complex instructions that when something breaks down or when the complex instructions no longer apply because something's changed, there's a red card, with a goal down or something like that. And that's why we can't play 2 consecutive halves that are good, because if plans break down, he needs to get players in at halftime to download all the new complex instructions. If you overcomplicate things for players, then they are unable to adapt and use their natural talents. As a coach, you should be platforming the players. You know, you can give them certain tools, certain situations that help them adapt. But a lot of it is they're talented players. They can develop chemistry for each other and they can figure out ways to play. So a lot of it is giving them the confidence. And I think what he did very well was making them believe that they could do these things. Because other than Romero, who else in that team had experience of winning a competition? Right? Son was with us for 10 years and never won anything. And for him to look at Son and say, you're getting up on that wall, just before the game, pointing to Son saying when he's lifting that cup. So I think that you can't. There's no way of like estimating how much impact that has on a player to make them feel 10 feet tall, give them that fire in the belly. Even Matt Wells was saying after he left, he bought a notebook just to write down all the inspirational talks that he was giving to players, because that was something that he felt would be useful for him as a coach. And then you go from that to, we will lose games. I guarantee we will lose games. There's a very, very big difference there. Even if you're a tactical, genius, if you talk to players in that way, there's a psychological element that affects their performance as well.
100%, Dustin. I think you're absolutely spot on. But I think that wraps us up nicely for this episode of the Scarfey Spurs podcast. Longer than expected, but we covered an awful lot, and which is, I think, a fantastic episode, if I may say so myself. Dustin, I'll start with you. Where can people follow you on social media if they want to hear more?
You can find me on X. My name is in the tag over there because I'm very bad at spelling it. And I've also got a series on Chris Cowland's channel where I do tactical breakdowns of games and general concepts.
Fantastic stuff. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much. Justin, thank you so much for coming back on. Where can people find you and your socials? Because I know you create your own football content.
Thanks for having me again. It's always good to get the stress of Tottenham off your chest. You can find me on X and TikTok. I'm actually going to start doing videos again. Frank just depressed me so much. I just didn't even want to. I just couldn't even trying to think of his lineup. It was breaking me. I was just like, I'm done with this. But if you want to catch me there, or I'm at most home games other than Arsenal, West Ham, Chelsea, and I'm at Block 1 and 5 if you ever want to say hey.
Fantastic. Absolutely. I will be over myself. Justin, thank you very much. Gary, thank you so much. Always good to have you on. Tell people where they can find you on social media, but also about your podcast, which, if I'm not mistaken, is absolutely taken off and is doing really well, which is thoroughly deserved. So congratulations on that.
Thanks very much for having me, and thanks for that. I'm actually in Block 107, so the next time I need some help, I know where to go. I'll be running over to Block 105. But no, I appreciate you having me. Yeah, we're doing okay. We've been going maybe 2 months now. A few thousand people watching the last couple of episodes, which has been really good, and we'll try to be as informative as we can, serious when we need to be, but we'll throw in a joke or two as well, because ultimately we all essentially do this for fun, but equally people that are sit watching, we want to bring some humor and laughter to things. And the last episode, we finished it with Mr. What was it, Mr. Motivator? I think Justin might remember him. So we just have a little laugh with a few things, but we've got some journalists coming on and trying to get a couple of ex-pros, potentially got one coming on as well. So just little things like that. But if you want to follow me just on the Twitter, would be fantastic. And I try to reply to everybody if I can. I do get quite bombarded sometimes, but I'll love to chat Tottenham, MLS, or the Serie A.
Gary, thank you so much. Appreciate your commitment to the podcast, to Spurs, and doing some amazing work as well. Thank you to all of you, and big up to everyone that's listened. If you want more in terms of the Scarfey Spurs podcast, you're listening via audio platform, drop us a follow and a 5-star review. But I want to hear from you. How do you feel right now as a Spurs fan with all that is going on? And you can get in touch. Drop me an email, scarfharry323@gmail.com, or drop me a DM, tag me at harryscarfe22 across social media. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe if you're new for daily Tottenham content in terms of podcasts, shorts, videos, you name it. A lot coming this week, as I'm sure you can imagine, with all the news that has been going on. But for now, thank you from me to you, and a massive come on, you Spurs.